Alright, so coming back under the car today, the old rear main seal was already pulled out of the car, and I went ahead and put the new one in. Basically, all I did for this is I started it by hand around the crankshaft, and then I took an extension and a hammer, and then slowly started tapping all the way around the seal until it became pretty much flush with the block. And then I went ahead and took some Permatex gasket maker and worked some in between the crevices on the outside and the inside. Just so if it were to somehow pop out again, which it shouldn't, the gasket maker should hold that seal and help it to not leak oil. Alright, so now we took a 14mm Allen head and took open the fill/drain plug, draining what's coming out of there. Then we're going to take the fluid transfer pump, stick it in there, get all the rest of the fluid out, and then fill it with some new Redline fluid. Alright, so it's been a little while since we did an update video, but I have the new fill/drain plug-in with about 1.5 quarts of new oil in the diff. And then coming up to the front of the car, I have the clutch line ran. So that is the part that's going to connect to the master cylinder. And then this, all I had to do was punch a little, or like take my finger and punch out the foam surround right there. And now, as you can see, it's hanging right there from underneath the car. So then I took the pedals out, which is just the two 13mm nuts, and then there was a 10mm bolt. It's kind of hard to see, but it was up there. The gas pedal was just a 5mm Allen key. And then I also, if you can kind of see where my finger is right there, you have to take your finger and punch another insert through there, and that's where the clutch line will go to the actual brake fluid reservoir into the master cylinder. Alright, so this part is actually going to be after the car has been completed already. Unfortunately, we didn't record anything in terms of how to do the wiring. It was pretty involved. Main reason we didn't record was because we were actually following Vehicular DIY's tutorial very closely to make sure we didn't screw anything up. But yeah, there was a lot of soldering involved. So Zach was doing all the soldering while I was actually working on getting the wires ready and all and everything. So we had to run one wire up to the DME, which then actually connected to the ECU of the car. One wire went to the CAS module. Another wire went to the NFRM module for the reverse lights. There was a ground wire, so we had to make a ground wire. And then there's one more that I'm not thinking of. Basically, I'll link Vehicular DIY's tutorial in the description. He did a very excellent write-up on how to do this with videos showing how to do everything. So that's the main reason we didn't record anything here. But yeah, pedals are in. So that's what they look like. I did swap out the gas pedal for the manual one, mainly because it doesn't have the kickdown switch. So it's just the full OEM manual gas pedal, and then I swapped out the covers on the clutch and brake pedal because they were a little bit beat up.
Okay, sorry to jump ahead, guys, but it took us a few weeks to get a actual clutch in because a lot of them were back ordered. We ended up going with the Clutch Masters twin disc race spec clutch. It's the 725. It has 2 ceramic discs. It's pretty OP. It's rated for 1200 horsepower. So basically, when you put a twin disc in, you want to have to use 2 different alignment tools. You'll use the traditional black alignment tool, and then you'll also use the OEM alignment tool. So basically what you want to do with the black one is you're lining up the splines between the 2 discs, and then with the OEM one you're gonna basically just line up the height and make sure that it fits properly. And as you can see, this one's not fitting properly, so we might have to loosen it back up and readjust. Alright, so as you can see, we're installing the pressure plate right now. We forgot to make a clip about the flywheel, but when installing the flywheel, you want to first initially torque it to, what is it, 40 foot-pounds? 20 foot-pounds, and then take them back out, put Loctite on them, and then torque them to 80. You might have to have someone either hold the front of the crank with a breaker bar, or you'll have to buy the locking tool that locks in where the starter goes. Okay, so after installing the clutch, this is the manual transmission. We haven't put it underneath the car yet, but we installed the fork and the throwout bearing. You want to make sure that you put grease on the back of the input shaft so that the throwout bearing rides smoothly. And then we also grease the splines a little bit. Some people say not to do this, but I think it's better for when you put the transmission in, it goes right in, and it really doesn't do any harm because there's splines on it. And then we also put some grease in the pilot bearing itself, so that just keeps the maintenance good, so it doesn't break anytime soon, hopefully. Okay, as you guys can see, the transmission is fully bolted up and in the car. Sorry to skip ahead, but we just ran into a few problems, and we just wanted to get it done. So the transmission is in, the slave cylinder is in, and the clutch lines are bled. The drive shaft is connected. So everything is pretty much ready to go. We just got to put the exhaust up. You guys can see the shifter is in. And just to prove it, it's an automatic car. Paddle shifters are still here. So yeah, she's ready to go. We're gonna put the exhaust up and coat it, and then we're gonna give it a first start. So unfortunately, we ran into a small issue for whatever reason when the battery charger was plugged in. We weren't able to start it. And then also we realized that like with the clutch stop, because we put in a clutch stop with a twin disc, you have to have a clutch stop. You have to push really hard in order for the clutch switch to activate, so the ECU knows that the clutch pedal's pushed in to start the car. So once we pushed really hard on the clutch pedal and then started it, it worked. But yeah, I missed the first start because we were just messing around with it, but she's running, boys, and it goes into gear, works perfect.